Sweet.
All right. All right.
Yo,
Yeah. We're live, baby.
let's
We
do
are
it.
live. That's the D-Day, man. Your course is now officially out. Alex Figini, everyone. How excited you are. Tell me.
I have been waiting for this day for quite some time now, so it's I'm very excited. I hope other people are excited about this as well.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Let's start with this because I have a pretty good idea what we're gonna do on this stream and we're gonna talk about it obviously. But let's play the trailer. Let the people see what exactly they're getting into. So here we go.
Welcome to Concepting in ZBrush. My name is Alex Figini and I'm a concept artist in the entertainment industry with over 10 years of experience. Originally, I started out in the
Cool.
industry as a 2D artist, but over the past several years, I've
That's
started
not
to use
right.
3D software in my workflow and I've seen immense value in the results. Concepting in ZBrush is intended for artists of all skill levels, including both beginners and experts
Are you getting
alike.
audio for that?
This
I'm
course
not-
is aimed at giving you a
I'm not
solid
seeing the
proficiency
audio.
in numerous industry standard softwares and will result in a wealth of portfolio ready character and prop designs. We'll start things off by analysing and interpreting a creative brief and sketching out concepts in Photoshop. With our foundations in place, we can move on to ZBrush where I'll take you on a guided tour of the user interface covering a vast number of tools and practical techniques to bring your designs to life. Once we've created our sculpt in ZBrush, we'll bring it into Marvelous Designer where I'll show you how to create and simulate realistic clothing from the ground up. Then on to Keyshot, where we'll cover detailed materials, lighting and rendering workflows. We'll wrap things up with compositing in Photoshop and some best practices for presenting your work for both film and games. Students who sign up for the Learn Squared or professional packages will have access to a wealth of bonus material, including my project files in ZBrush, all of my Marvelous Designer garments, Keyshot project files and final PSDs. Not to mention, they'll be able to follow the journeys of my apprentices and mentorship students as they learn from the same tutorial content as you. See you in class.
Hell yeah. Boom, baby.
That's it.
Boom, baby. That's awesome, dude. All right. That's it, guys. We're done. We're over. You watched the trailer. We can
Say no
move on.
more. Say no more.
Yeah, dude. Anyways, I'm excited about this one. I remember contacting you and talking with you. It's just because like we had a lot of students asking about ZBrush, and we always want to find the best in the industry. And I remember that time. It was back in 2013, I believe, or maybe 14, when I saw you posted some images. And I'm actually gonna go to your art station and talk about which images I saw. And those were this ones, the Gangsta Mech and also the Forest Camo.
Yeah.
I remember seeing those images like, damn, Daniel, back at it again with that ZBrush files. And I was like, damn, I want to do that stuff. I want to do some cool shit like this, you know. And that's where all the interest in ZBrush and actually, honestly, a lot of the character work that I've been doing recently, personally, started just from seeing your art, man. Like,
Oh,
I'm not
wow.
even lying. Like, seeing those images had quite nice influence in me trying to get more into character art. Obviously, there were other aspects, but
I'm
anyways,
flattered that you say that, man.
no, dude. I mean, it's awesome, dude. Just looking through your portfolio, you've done like 2D art before, but your ZBrush stuff is, oh my god, it's like next level to me. So here we go. I wanted to start maybe with just for anyone who's joining us and watching this stream, just to join us and know a little bit more about the course itself and you. Let's maybe start with just introducing yourself, like who you are, where you're from, and what do you do, and how you ended up where you are right now.
Sure. So I am Alex Figini. I'm a concept artist, and I've been working in the game industry for the last 10 years, almost 11 years now. I'm from London, England originally, but I was working for Sony for a developer called Evolution Studios. I was working for them for about 6 years on the MotorStorm franchise. And then I got the opportunity to move to Canada and work for BioWare. and for the last 4.5 years, I've been working for BioWare full time. And that's kind of like how I got to where I am now. And then yeah, obviously you contacted me. What was it, like middle of this year, roughly, about the course?
Yeah.
And we were kind of like planning out what we could include for this kind of ZBrush course, and it organically expanded into using Keyshot and Marvelous Designer as well. So I've actually covered like an incredible amount in this course. I hope it's going to be well received by everyone. But yeah, I mean, this is generally the softwares that I use on a daily basis, and you kind of touched upon it previously. Originally, I was just like a kind of a painter, and then through using ZBrush at work, I've learned that it's actually incredibly useful in a production environment. So all your assets can be transferred to other departments and can really help inform other team members on how to like build something, like if it's a character design, or you can import stuff into Engine and test it out really quickly, so it's good for prototyping. So I'm kind of like an advocate for using 3D now. I mean, there's no kind of like right and wrong with producing concepts, but this process definitely has a great deal of value beyond just the image. So that's kind of what this course is about, and I'm hoping that that some of that will come across and people will actually see the potential with this workflow.
Yeah, man. I remember. I mean, like I looked through the course itself, and it's like the amount of content you're covering throughout, from concepting phase to working with ZBrush and working with Marvelous Designer and doing everything you do in the course is just like, wow, it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of like quality stuff too, because like you basically go throughout everything. And I really like the process that you have here. I know it's a proven process and proven concept that it just works in the industry, because I've seen it all over the place. I've seen a lot of artists that are working this way, and they get hired. They get hired by big studios. And I mean, you're a prime example, because you work for one of the biggest studios in Canada, right? It's the BioWare, right?
Yeah.
So what is exactly, I mean, you kind of touch upon this, but if you could break it down just to, for everyone to get sort of like a relation on how your day of work looks like when you work with ZBrush and work in a studio.
I mean, often you can start out like from a meeting or like a brief, verbal brief or a written brief from either your art director or another department, and then you have a conversation with said person. You might produce some sketches in 2D to kind of get you in the same on the same page, and then you can just jump into ZBrush. And if it's a character or a weapon design or an object, you can very quickly build the basic shapes for review. And then when those kind of more primitive volumes are approved, you can go in and start detailing. So that's the kind of the process that I'm trying to push with this course as well, is not getting hung up on detail early on. I think that's kind of like a common thing for beginners to want to really get into the nitty gritty detail. That's something that comes later, but it's definitely, I'm trying to push that the kind of idea that you want to establish like the more graphic, bigger volumes first in terms of character design anyway, and the fun little nitty gritty details can come later. But yeah, I mean, on a daily basis, I pretty much use this in conjunction with Photoshop and Keyshot, every day.
Right.
And this has been expanded to other team members as well. And I think the value that's been felt from other departments has been quite significant.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I can tell it sort of to add to that from my own experience, having ZBrush models and even for a concept artist, let's say if you work in film, when I worked on, let's say, Gods of Egypt, a lot of work that I'll be doing, I was getting ZBrush models from department members, and it was amazingly easy for me to get that and work with it and create like environment concepts with those characters in, because you can basically, since it's 3D, all of it is 3D. It's just so much easier to set it up and make anything you want out of it. One thing I can also add is when you work with the studio, when you work with director, if you work in film or even if you work in games, the idea that you have a 3D model and you can do whatever you want with it, like you can light it in a different way. It also gives a lot of information, especially in video games. It allows you or allows your team to have a really, really, really solid foundation that they can then take and build on top of. And they don't have to figure out like what is hidden in the shadow of the concept, right? You just take the model in your editor. Like if you take the ZTL and open it up in ZBrush, and you exactly know what's where. You don't have to guess as a modeler. So for 3D modelers, it's an amazing starting point, So, yeah, dude, that's awesome. I know this works. I mean, we've already met and talked about it on the Art Cafe before. Just like extensively talk about how important 3D becomes in concept art, illustration, even illustration, So and just how industry is moving towards that, So I know how much value this is, and I'm just like, super excited because it seems to me that next year might be a little easier. I'm not gonna have that much work. Actually, not gonna take that much work, and I want to take this course, man. I want to get a little better at that ZBrush, better myself. Man. So
it's there for you, dude.
It's there for me, man. It's there for me. It's there for everyone else too. So I really encourage, because dude, seriously, I'm excited about this. I am excited about this. I know I said it's all the time that I'm excited about everything, but I only say it about things that I'm really excited about.
You're an excited guy.
I'm an exciting guy.
I mean, one of the things that I've tried to achieve with this kind of the ZBrush aspect is trying to get a lot of the people who haven't had a lot of experience with it. What's he writing here? This guy. People who haven't had a lot of experience with the software, they often find the UI quite a hurdle, and basically the workflow. So I'm hoping that this helps kind of explain my workflow and just breaks things down a little bit into sort of like bite-sized chunks to make it more digestible.
Yeah.
But I've also included like a custom UI. So a lot of the functionality, all the brushes, they're all on the top layer. So you won't have to go rooting out through all the menus and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's trying to reduce those barriers and to get people in there and start enjoying using the software.
Yeah, it's a good actual good segue for us to talk about the class itself. We've talked about how useful it is to work in 3D, and especially ZBrush. ZBrush is a industry standard. Like let's make no mistake. Everyone in the industry, from the low level to really high level, film, games, everything. It's the by far biggest software that is being used. Marvelous Designer is getting there too, right? If I'm correct.
I think that's used in conjunction with it.
Yeah.
I think it's becoming very commonplace for character artists, as well as concept artists, to be using Marvelous Designer just because the results are incredible.
Right. So let's talk about the class itself. The class is built from 4 lessons, and let's just talk about what exactly we're going to be doing there.
Sure. So the initial lesson is basically the intro to the course, and we're going to begin by getting our creative brief. We're going to start with extensive research, and then we're going to get into sketching. So the first lessons, it's quite light, and I think it will be an easy entry into the course. But I wanted to give a good foundation and give the students the opportunity to explore design before they go into ZBrush. So this is really the foundation for the rest of the course, and it's something that this whole process is meant to be iterative. So you don't have to like stick with your final illustration. You can kind of see on the thumbnails there is like a progression in the design, and it does change. And I'd like the students to experiment with concepting in ZBrush and not just building and copying their illustration. So the first lesson is the foundation. Second lesson is the intro to ZBrush, and it's going to be covering basically the fundamentals of the software. We're going to be looking at brushes, different tools, functionality, the custom UI, and then it's going to go into your initial sculpt. So I'll take you through my process where I'm sculpting my rough sculpt that in a working environment would be used as kind of like a point of review with your art director or your client. And from there, obviously, you'll get you'll get like a rough bust or a full figure. And then onto the third lesson, where we'll be refining said sculpt, and you can be really like polishing your design and getting it ready to be taken into Marvelous Designer. And that's the third lesson is going to be like quite a packed session. So I'd say it's probably good to split that over 2 weeks. So the first half would be the advanced ZBrush. The second half would be the intro to Marvelous Designer. Again, we'll be covering UI, all the tools, my workflow, and I'll take you through the full construction of my garments, from t-shirt to jacket, hoodie, trousers, the whole lot. We'll also be covering posing in ZBrush. There's some really useful techniques that I found in the last 6 months actually that allow you to get a lot more from your sculpt, and it's basically you can use morph targets. I won't go into too much depth, but you can basically get a number of different poses from your base, and it means that you can reuse your asset over and over and over again in different contexts with different poses. And we're going to be covering that in the third lesson. And then the fourth lesson is where we bring all that stuff together, and we take it into Keyshot. I actually use the ZBrush to Keyshot bridge, so it's kind of one button exporter. Oh, you got it there. You got it there, man.
For anyone who's following Twitch stream, they probably know what that means.
Yeah, no trousers. No trousers. Then we take everything into Keyshot. I take you through my kind of pipeline of creating materials, lighting, rendering, and then it's really easy. We just composite some images in Photoshop, and we present our material, and that's it. Job done.
Perfect. That's a good breakdown, man. That's a good
Well, there's
breakdown.
a lot. I mean, it's like
it is a lot.
There's a lot in 4 lessons.
Yeah. For anyone who's signing up or plan to sign up, it's be prepared that some of that stuff might be a little heavy. But here's the thing: from what I understand and from what you said, you're covering it from the very ground. So basically, It means that if you are just starting and you just want to learn it, that's your opportunity. But also, if you're professional, I'm assuming you're gonna take something out of it too, right?
Yeah, I think the idea behind the course for me was that it was almost like layered. So you can take from it what you want, and you don't need to take it to the nth degree. You might just want to use ZBrush for creating rough sculpts to paint over. You might want to do some very kind of fundamental simulation in Marvelous Designer. You might want to use Keyshot quite lightly. But the point is that you can revisit this and you can learn more and more and more and get more proficient in the software. So it should accommodate kind of as much as broad a range of skills and expertise as possible.
That's awesome. Very cool. Yeah, I like it so far. I love it. It's not like a fanboy. That's what's up. But dude, when I'm looking at those sculpts, man, it's like the sick work you've done here. It's just like, what the hell?
Marvelous design. It's marvelous. What can I say?
It's like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
It actually turned to be a Pokemon.
Anyways, looks just like me. It's incredible.
Cool. Yeah. So that's a good breakdown. I mean, everyone who might have questions like, what is it all about? There you have it. By the way, guys, like, feel free to ask any questions you want. Towards the end of the stream, I'll be reading them all and walking through those questions so we can answer them all and have as much information out here as possible. Momo, the great Momo is helping us out here. Someone called him MVP. I agree. He's just right on top of his game all the time. So shout out to Momo. He's the ambassador of the stream almost at this point. So cool. So another thing I wanted to talk with you about, and sort of in touch with the lesson here, the lessons here is let's maybe talk about what are the goals for the students that are taking the class. Like, what do you think students can and should get out of this?
I think from my perspective, this is obviously it's aimed at a very broad range of disciplines and like skill levels, as I said. But I was thinking that this was going to be an intro for artists who haven't really had much experience in 3D, and getting them to think about the potentials of using 3D for concepting and how that can benefit them in a professional environment. So it really was just trying to give like a very rough foundation with the kind of 2D at the beginning, which I think will be an easy entry for most people. It's an area where I kind of talk about design. So even if you're more technical, there might be some elements where we're kind of talking about the design aspects of character creation, which will be useful for those more technical people. But I mean, really, it's like there's meant to be something for everyone. And that sounds really cheesy and corny, but there's so much content in there that really there's an incredible amount of information to take from this. But I wanted to be able to basically express like the benefits, and also kind of go through basically what I've learned over the past like 3 or 4 years from experience, trial and error, and put that in a package that's really clear and concise, and is easily digestible for beginners or experts alike.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's hard to really sum up everything in there because there's an incredible amount. But yeah, it's I want to give people a really good foundation in like a number of pieces of software, and to basically reduce those barriers, and just to get them enjoying and creating artwork.
That's awesome. Yeah, very cool. God damn, I'm just looking at those images, man. Looking at those pictures. I just can't take them out of my head, man.
Yeah, and like the cool thing is, like, we have all these sculpts now.
Yeah.
And it's not too hard. I don't actually cover this in the lesson, but it's not too hard to go from this to actual 3D printing. So this can actually become something tangible. So the applications
funny you
go
mentioned,
beyond.
because someone actually was talking about it on the chat.
Yeah, Yeah, I was actually talking to Andrew about this recently. Depending on how the course does, I might try and get one of these guys ready for 3D print. I'd like to kind of get a little kind of milestone trophy for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I don't know if we could actually turn that into like a small production line. It'd be fun. But yeah, I mean, the applications for this, they go far beyond just the 2D image, um, and obviously that'll be evident in the lesson. What's that? Uh-oh. The layering.
The layering, man.
Yeah, and one of the cool things, like you can see the way the jacket's kind of been pulled out, and it looks like he's in motion. And this all comes for free when you use morph targets and blending between them in Marvelous Designer. And this is something that I've found out about recently, and it really adds a lot of life and movement to your concepts. So yeah.
There you go.
That was
Just
something really
highlighting
cool that I learned this year, and I wanted to I redesigned the course to include this
That's awesome.
because I think it's so useful.
No, I mean, just examining this picture, I can tell like my brain is trying to process the amount of details. I know it's a lot of work, man. I know because like just from the idea of drawing, I know it takes time to get something that is crafted, and that's what I see here. That's why I love it. I'm just drooling all over it.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like anything. There's no real shortcuts to get to kind of where you want to go. It's going to be putting in the time.
Yeah.
But I really did want to try and give my best practices to the students and try and cut the fat and the unnecessary stuff. And you can approach the software ZBrush or Marvelous Designer in many different ways, but I've kind of taken my approach, and it's basically trying to keep as creative as possible and reduce the amount of kind of like technical aspects. You don't need to like unwrap your model or get UVs or anything like that. So you're going from kind of like one creative session to another without being caught up in the kind of nitty gritty of the actual software itself.
Look at that badass. He's just about to enter and do some stuff.
About to drop off a pizza. That's a render. That's not even
yeah, I know.
That's not even like edited in Photoshop. That's straight
just a
from
raw render.
Yeah. No edit.
It's like from the obviously environment is a photo, right?
Sorry, say again.
The environment itself is a photo.
Yes, it's a backplate, and
just so you guys know, don't get too excited.
Yeah, that's not modeled. The environment's not modeled.
But what works great is how it integrates, and that's awesome. It's all Keyshot, right?
All Keyshot.
Yes.
There's some really simple, easy to use tools. In fact, the whole program is very easy to get into. In contrast to ZBrush, which is it has a slightly steeper kind of curve. Keyshot is like I say it's like rendering for dummies, and I don't mean to belittle it because it's an amazing piece of software, but honestly, coming from like Mental Ray, using like Mental Ray and Maya and stuff like that, this is like a breath of fresh air. And it really, like, this is a great bit of software. If you're not used to rendering, it makes it incredibly easy, and the results are really good. The results are solid. And if you want to composite stuff, like that kind of that shot where he's dropping off his pizza, there's some really easy tools to composite your models into scenes. So it could be concepts you've already made, or you're kind of working on, environments, or objects, whatever. And this is all covered in the lesson. It's super easy, very 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 digestible.
Right on.
And all these ones that you're cycling through now are just raw renders.
Yeah, that's from Keyshot, right?
Yeah, straight out of Keyshot.
Cool.
And they're lit by the HDRI. It's kind of the HDRI is like low res right now, like so it's looking really jagged.
Yeah.
Um,
But it's, I
but
mean,
that's just temporary.
yeah, for temporary renders where you want to test lighting and stuff like that, you don't really care about that much, you know, because it just gives you a good idea of what you're looking at, and sort of you want to start with that. I have a question where, what if you don't have Keyshot? Like, what would you do then? Like, do you think students can take it and let's say use V-Ray or even ZBrush's PBR for that matter?
You can totally do that. I mean, the renderer is your choice. Obviously, I cover Keyshot in the class.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a decent portion of lesson 4. But if you're proficient with other software, I think the course still has a lot of value. So yeah, I mean, you can approach it from. I mean, I think I even say you can use the renderer of your choice. But just for ease of use, I found with the ZBrush and Keyshot Bridge with the 1-button export, it's very, very quick and iterative workflow, and that's kind of what I wanted to do with this course, is just make it as easy and digestible as possible. But yeah, you can totally use V-Ray. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I don't, but yeah, why not?
Absolutely. I mean, once you understand rendering in a way, like even just knowing Keyshot, I would assume you can have sort of like a good head start with other renderers as well. Because the way, in most cases, and I've discussed it with Grant Warwick before, the most renders work the same. They just have a little different UIs. And once you understand the principles behind shading and knowing how to set up shaders and the lighting itself, then you can use anything pretty much. But you cover specifically Keyshot, so that's good to know, and that's good to know for the students. Momo, our MVP, actually mentioned that V-Ray, not V-Ray, ZBrush and Keyshot, you can actually get that 45-day demo, and that should get you covered easily.
Yeah,
very cool.
That's plenty of time to get started in the software for sure.
Yeah, perfect. I wanted to jump in more details into lessons because I'm pretty sure it might actually answer some of the questions that are popping up here.
Sure.
Sort of go through. We went through what each lesson does, and that's great. I wanted to sort of maybe talk a little bit of reasons behind why you've set up your lessons in very specific order, in this order, and what exactly what would be the expectations, or rather, why you would start a certain way and maybe go further from there.
Sure. I mean, so I've started the course obviously with the brief and the research, and that's to simulate working in a professional environment. So obviously professionals are well aware of this process, but for any kind of beginner, you might not be familiar with the kind of creative process in a production environment. So it's kind of to simulate that and to get them thinking about a solid way to begin a project. And obviously research and analyzing your brief are like integral to creating good designs. And I kind of I talk about the kind of stuff that I think about when designing, the type of research I look at. I refer to nature and all the amazing designs that occur in nature, and I'm trying to kind of push people away from just like kind of Googling concept art or just referencing other concept art or sci-fi or whatever, because then it becomes a little bit self-referential. And I think to get something a little more interesting, you can look further further afield. So that was kind of the reason behind the beginning of that lesson. And then with that in mind, I wanted the students to interpret the brief and move it in a direction that they want to be comfortable with. I didn't want them to do like a carbon copy of what I'm doing. I'm using that as a base, but they can interpret the brief in their own way and create their own world. And really, I really want them to think about the world that this design is going to be living in. So that was kind of what I wanted to get started there. Obviously, the exploration of design with the thumbnails is a really important part. It's basically a way that I can get my ideas down and kind of cross stuff off my list. Like, does it work with a cloak, or do I want to do a kind of like insect type mech or whatever? I'm just like exploring ideas, and then from that, I can then build on it, iterate, and as I was saying, in a professional environment, it's a really good way to get initial feedback before you go too deep down the rabbit hole, and you've spent like a couple of days already sculpting a model. So it's a very quick and easy way to get people on the same page. Also, the reference gathering process is a good way to get people on the same page as well. If you have a mood board, you can present that and go, I'm kind of thinking this, and people can approve it, or give their own input in terms of reference they found. For instance, like your art director might supply a page of reference for you to work from. So that's pretty much the the base for the first lesson. And from the homework that you do, hopefully you'll have at least an initial direction for when you go into ZBrush, and that goes on to the second lesson. So obviously, second lesson, intro to ZBrush, I wanted to provide beginners with a kind of an easy entry into the software. I cover all the fundamental tools, all my brushes, all the functionality. So I try and cover the technical stuff first, and then I go into the practical application and how I approach, building my concept. So I actually start with one of the base meshes that's included in the software. I think it's called like Nick's Average Human Male. So everyone who has the software should have that file. And basically that's, a good place to start if you're working towards having, fairly realistic human proportions. So you save a lot of time rather than having to like construct a figure from scratch. You've got this base. So again, another quick way to get people up and running. So I'm kind of like sculpting directly on this figure, and as I'm doing that, I'm kind of taking you through my thought process of design, what I'm thinking about, kind of technically with the different brushes I'm using and what they achieve, and then through that process, hopefully that kind of workflow will come across to the students, and they'll be able to take a similar approach. I think a lot of people when they come into ZBrush, in particular if you've used other 3D software like you're a Maya or Max user, the workflow is a little different, and this is a lot more creative. I'd say this is definitely an artist tool. Disregarding the UI, which is just it's an anomaly. But other than that,
to put it in nice words.
Pardon?
To put it nicely.
Yes, I mean, everything. I'm not going to talk about the UI in depth now, but once you understand where a few things are located, you're fine.
Yeah, and it's super powerful. My God,
it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah. It's just a matter of switching gears and really getting familiar with new terminology and understanding what exactly the software does. And once you get it, it's just straightforward. It goes from there.
It's just a different way of thinking.
Yeah.
And I think through experience, people understand how to solve certain problems, and even refining their workflow. So really, the second lesson was trying to explain my approach when tackling like my initial sculpt. And in reality, like if you're doing like an illustration, you might only take the sculpt to that stage. You might not take it further.
Yeah.
So the good thing about this is that you can kind of jump in and out depending on where you are with the project. So you might take it to this stage, and then it goes to art director or whatever for approval, you might iterate on it a number of times and do variants. It might even be kind of put to one side if the project is you're trying to cover a lot of different designs. So it's something that you can revisit later on, you can repurpose and iterate on, and you can build it up to a kind of hero asset, which is kind of where I wanted to take the character with all the clothing. I wanted it to be like a AAA quality kind of asset. But again, it's kind of it's something that you can extrapolate the info from the course and use it in a number of different ways. And even the kind of the tools that I'm using for the hard surface stuff, hopefully people can use that for creation of objects, for props, for weapons, pretty much anything.
Yeah. Do you cover props, by the way? Is any of the props building?
I cover. I don't do like a full narrated kind of cover of the gun design, but there is the full process of me creating the gun.
Yeah. So for
in the extras, yeah.
For Learn Squared students on the Learn Squared level, which is the second one, and when you look at the breakdown of the class itself, when you purchase the Learn Squared, you're going to have access to all the files, basically all the recordings, the real-time recordings as well, which allows you to see like everything in real time. So even if you have anything narrated that would possibly could be sped up or not, that basically will allow you to see everything, on your own time. Like, all right, I want to see this step-by-step, pause and see what's exactly going on there. You'll be able to do that when you decide to purchase the Learn Squared package, which is the best value, by the way.
There's a lot of freebies in there. Essentially, all the Marvelous Designer files are in there for students.
Yeah.
So you have access to all those garments, and they can be repurposed or whatever. But yeah, I mean that was kind of the idea behind the second lesson, is to give people a really good standing in ZBrush. And then the third lesson, which is like the really beefy lesson, I'm thinking obviously we're going to split that over 2 weeks. Yeah, advanced ZBrush. So the advanced ZBrush is kind of is half of the story here. So I'd say the first week can be spent refining your sculpt, and if this was at a studio, you might be getting feedback and kind of getting the go-ahead to pursue this design. So this is to kind of try and simulate that. And then the second half of Advanced ZBrush is actually where we go into Marvelous Designer. And before that, I do cover posing. I also cover how to kind of like retopologize your model to a degree and reduce the poly count to take into Marvelous Designer. So we cover all that, the kind of technical side. And yeah, there we go. You kind of just skip past it there. But this is like a series of poses that are kind of quickly created in ZBrush using just a couple of tools, the masking tools and the transpose tools. And then you use these low polys as morph targets in Marvelous Designer. And that's where you can get the motion, the inertia, and the kind of life in your simulations. Plus, it's something that you can go back to that stage and create new poses for scenes or whatever. So if you're working on a film, you've got this hero asset in your kind of T pose or whatever, and you can repurpose that for new scenes that are being drafted up by the director, or you can apply kind of whatever you want to that asset. So that was kind of like that stage. And then we go into Marvelous Designer, where I take you through the full kind of garment creation. The software is a lot lighter than ZBrush, and it's actually really easy to get up and running in Marvelous Designer. Yeah. And the results are just incredible. Like,
super straightforward software. Which version of Marvelous Designer are you using in the course?
So
that everyone knows?
This one is 5.5. But the functionality I think has been there since maybe 3. I don't think I used it before 3, and I think the current iteration is 6, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, the current iteration is 6. It has a little different menus, especially right here on the top. The icons, they're same icons, just redesigned. There's more functions added,
Cool.
but the functionality of the icons didn't change at all. So once you understand this, so it's gonna be easy for you to relate to Marvel's Designer 6 if that's the one you decide to choose. Marvel's Designer 6 came out very recently, and you're already recording this in 5.5. Therefore, it's like this weird overlap. But it's really no biggie. It's basically the same thing, just different design of the icon in terms of like how graphically they are presented. There's more functions and options that you're not covering, obviously, because they've been added in the new software, and they're super easy to implement if you decide to. And the Marvelous Designers website by itself has already a lot of additional information on how to use those tools too. So it's a good complementary solution for you. So very cool. All right. I think next thing I wanted to talk about is your apprentice, because we have Emmanuel Shu, and I'll actually try to pull up his work in a second. But I would like you to talk about you're doing the journey with Emmanuel, and it would be great to hear how you like working with him and all that stuff, and what do you think his experience with this stuff is, because Emmanuel is for those who don't know, he's a veteran of film. He's been doing concept art in film in like forever, but he's never been using ZBrush. So
Yeah. I mean, I kind of met up with Emmanuel fairly recently to talk about the course, and obviously we've started the course now. I think he's going into his 2nd week or 3rd week now.
Moving fast.
Yeah, it's moving very quickly. Now, Emmanuel's an amazing artist, and you can see from his portfolio it's predominantly environment based.
Mm-hmm.
So I think from that regard, I think there was some stuff even in the first lesson that might have proved useful in terms of the way he'd maybe approached designing a character. So he started out, I don't think the initial homework was a kind of problem at all. Like, he's obviously very proficient in Photoshop, and he created a bunch of preliminary work before creating a more kind of finished design.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a no-brainer. But then going into ZBrush, he definitely found some kind of teething problems, I guess you'd say, with the software, which I think are common to anyone who's using a new bit of software.
Yeah.
But because Emmanuel already has experience in Maya, I believe,
right,
he had certain preconceptions about the way he should approach building stuff. So I was trying to get him to unlearn that kind of workflow and think about it in a different way.
Yeah.
So I was kind of referring him back to my approach to the initial rough sculpt, and how you don't need to worry too much about splitting up panels and stuff like that, and having really refined surfaces. Like, that's something that can come later. Mm-hmm. And it was more trying to push the idea of looking at the overall form and the volumes, and the benefits of using 3D as opposed to 2D, where you can kind of like turn your model around and analyze it from different angles and directions. And obviously working in film or games, these designs are going to be turned into 3D at some point anyway. So why not approach it from that angle from the get-go?
Yeah.
I was trying to just push that kind of ideology, and the first week I could tell, the first week in ZBrush I could tell it was pretty tough. You could say a baptism of fire, but he's like, I think he's been using it enough now that things are starting to click.
Yeah,
and
it's all
he was saying to me,
isn't
like,
it?
Pardon?
It's all building that experience and getting familiar with the software and the workflows and everything.
Yeah, and he said already, after using it for a few days, he could see the application and how useful it would be in, working in film if the art director wanted him to iterate on, like a bunch of different busts for like looks for characters or something, he could very, very quickly achieve like amazing results.
Mm-hmm.
And we were kind of experimenting with insert meshes. I was kind of explaining that you can get some really crisp results by using insert meshes, and I'll cover this in the lesson. And there's a great wealth of insert meshes available online, and I don't actually use them in the course. Everything is either an insert mesh from the standard ZBrush, or has been created from scratch, just sculpted.
Yeah.
But I was kind of explaining to him, like, you can achieve, very, very high quality results, quickly using that method. So there's a number of different approaches that he can take, and right now he's just refining his design, and he did like a load. Like, he didn't just do like one sculpt. He did like a bunch of different sculpts.
Nice. Very
and
nice.
we were kind of just like in the review, we were kind of like looking at them and kind of analyzing them a little, and he had this one hidden, and he brought it up towards the end, and I was like, oh my god, like, why didn't you show me this before? Like, this is awesome. And I was kind of like nudging him towards pursuing that. So hopefully, in a couple of weeks, we'll get to see his awesome refined design.
Pretty certain
And
about that.
he'll be a lot more proficient in the software by then, and he'll be over the kind of workflow issues that he had initially. But yeah, I think he's making great progress. Like, it's so rewarding to see him, from struggling with even like drawing the object on the canvas, because the way ZBrush works isn't necessarily that intuitive. So even like kind of getting to grips with the basics to what he's producing now is really promising. So yeah, it's great for me. I feel really good from it. But hopefully he'll be using this in his professional work very soon.
I'm pretty sure he will. Here's one thing that sets Learn Squirt apart from a lot of other places is the fact that we have the apprentices, and those are usually professionals that take the course that it's not really what they do normally, the working. We started Learn Squirt basically with the premise that we want to learn from one another, and show that even though as someone like me, you, Ash, or anyone else who's instructor on this platform, or anyone else for that matter who is a professional in the industry, we all learn the same way. We all learn from zero. We all start at the ground level, and all it takes is just to find the right path and find the right way and solutions to problems, and then searching for more and more and more and more. So basically speaking, it's just when you decide to take the course and look at the apprentice's journey, which is the part of Learn Squirt package, is you get to see a professional struggle the same way you would struggle when you start the project, when you start learning new software, when you start learning a new way of working too. Because like you said, Emmanuel is primarily environment guy, right? He does keyframes. He's I mean, I don't even know how to say it. He has so much experience in the industry. He works at ILM, I believe, or he's in the film union. He's done so many films so far. He's been matte painter before. He's done a lot of work, but all of it is environments. And it's kind of interesting to see him struggling with things that you as a student will struggle. It's the part of learning is the struggle. It's knowing that, damn, it's not working, but hey, you have a blueprint. You get to learn the perspective of your instructor, why he's doing this way, why he's working that way, and giving you insight why it's worthwhile to actually learn this specifically and put specific thoughts that you, Alex, have, right? You have the way you teach ZBrush is going to be different. it's gonna have some similarities with other instructors if you decide to take, let's say, another ZBrush class elsewhere. But it's not gonna be you. It's not gonna be your thinking process. It's not gonna be how you've learned to apply the software. And knowing that perspective, knowing how you specifically do it, it's just, I think it's one of the most amazing parts is just learning from different perspectives and seeing how someone who's already professional, been working in the industry in like forever, struggles the same way you do. And I think that's the most important part and most exciting part about signing up for Learn Squared package, where you actually learn, hey, we're all human beings. We all make mistakes, and it's all about learning. It's all about finding the ways to solve the problems and not give up, like right in the middle, like, it's not working. Let's screw it. I'm not gonna do this, right?
Yeah.
The only thing that maybe sets us apart is really just the experience we have. Like a professional artist is gonna have an experience working in the industry and working with clients and knowing ins and outs. But that's what we share. That's what we try to share here. So when you watch, for instance, an apprentice journey, he's going to make the same mistakes, but the valuable lesson there is going to be this, that as a professional, you know where to find the answers. You know that by default, that's what you have to do. You just have to apply it to the different discipline. And having that knowledge, man, like I wish I had that ability, let's say 15 years ago, to see likes of Dylan Cole or I don't know, David Levy or you name it. Like there's so many great names, like Ryan Church, like all of those great names. To see them struggle and make same mistakes I do, and just have that reassurance, like, yeah, they're all humans. Because when I started, all of them were gods.
Yeah.
So that's that. So yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. By the way, the course is available. Like as we were talking about it, you can purchase it anytime. The only limited course or the limited part is the professional part right here. That has a limited amount of seats, so it may sell out sooner or later. For basic and Learn Squared, you can sign up pretty much anytime you want and just follow it at your own pace. If you need more time to complete lessons, it's all up to you. The only time-sensitive part is going to be professional one, because that's the one that actually involves you, Alex, and live lessons, right? And live mentorship sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Awesome, dude. Let's jump into some QA. We've been talking about this for almost an hour now. Let's try to answer some questions that we've gathered over last hour, and there's few. Obviously, guys, feel free to ask any questions as you're here. And when is potato class? That's a good question. I don't know. let's focus on this. Cool. So, Alex, is there any component of the course you trimmed for the sake of sticking to 4 weeks, but that you believe it's important for students to explore deeper on their own?
I mean, it's kind of going back to the experience in the software. Obviously, you can't really say, you'll have all the worldly experience after 4 weeks, because it's going to take a long time to get fully accustomed with the software and like really comfortable. So that's not something that that you just get for free, as it were.
Yeah.
But I've tried to cover as much of my workflow as possible, to the point that the third lesson is almost like a double lesson, and that's why we're giving you twice as long to cover that lesson. So I was trying not to cut stuff, but actually squeeze stuff in. So I mean, there's a lot of content there. I've tried not to skip anything. So even down to kind of like masking and posing for export into Marvelous Designer, I've covered that.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I've tried to give like a really good base for people to build on, and they can even refer back to it at a later date if they didn't want to cover every aspect of the course. So yeah,
I
should be solid for you guys. It should be solid.
Learning a new software is usually downing because like there's so many like getting familiar with UI. It's granted that you're gonna watch the lesson and then forget half of it. So
Yeah.
you always come back and like, all right, let's do this again. It all comes with experience, guys. You watch the lessons, you're gonna apply it to something that's not gonna look good, and then you come back, you rewatch it, and then you apply it to something new, and it's gonna look better because as the more you learn the software, the more you learn and sort of like build those synapses in your brain that, all right, this does this, and it almost becomes like second nature to you. It comes with experience and time you put into mastering the software and mastering the workflows and understanding the capacity of how much it can be done within this and how you can actually connect it to anything else. So
Exactly.
that's pretty much that. Second question was, can I follow the course with ZBrush Core?
Yeah, I think you should be able to. I actually don't know too much about Core. I'm not even sure if it's been released yet. I'm assuming yes, if someone's asking that. But I believe that all the fundamental functionality and all the brushes are there in the Core. So you should be able to follow along, no problem.
So ZBrush Core is some kind of stripped version where it's just like, I guess what it says, Core.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure what they've taken out exactly, but I've seen very, very little on it actually. I saw there was like an announcement recently about ZBrush Core. But yeah, you could totally follow along. I think with the basic sculpting, which is the core of the course, really, is obviously applicable to the ZBrush Core as well, because that's what ZBrush is about. If you wanted to, like Mathieu, you said, you can download the trial as well. Like if you don't have the software, download the 45-day trial, and that should give you plenty of time to kind of get accustomed with the fundamentals of the software.
Right, and that should kind of answer the question. And someone mentioned that the Core doesn't have clipping brushes, for instance, so that could be.
It doesn't have clipping brushes. Okay,
So
I mean they are pretty useful, but there are other ways around clipping.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Any tools inherent to for version R7, or can I use R6?
I think everything's there from like R6. Yeah, everything. There's nothing new that I'm using from R6 to R7.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Have you tried? That's a question from me. It's not related to a question that someone asked. Have you ever tried 3D Code? Do you know how it works?
I haven't, but I'm very interested to try that software.
Yeah, because someone asked if how ZBrush differs from 3D Code. I'm pretty sure you can talk with Jama Jurabayev, who's one of our instructors too. I might actually get Jama on the stream to talk about that separately, so you can get a better idea. I
think
what's the differences
one thing that's, sorry to interrupt, but one thing that's occurred to me from using a number of different pieces of software is that they all have benefits and they're all good at doing something.
Yeah.
I think one of the strengths of ZBrush is the sculpting aspect, and all the brushes and the tools you have for sculpting, they're extremely strong. And that's kind of why I go back to it. It's
an industry standard too. I mean, you could I could see you doing this course in 3D Code for someone who already knows 3D Code. I would imagine that obviously the part where Alex is explaining how ZBrush works, that probably if you decide to go and I'm gonna do it in 3D Code, then you're not gonna learn much, or that's not gonna be useful knowledge, especially if you decide to make a effort and do it in 3D Code. But I guess the good part here is that apart from you just teaching tools, because this course is not about tools themselves. Tools are only allowing you to do that stuff. You're actually teaching your workflows and the reasoning behind it, right?
Yes, and my thought process when designing.
Exactly.
I want to get the kind of the tools and the technical stuff out of the way, so I cover that very early in the lesson. In fact, I think that's the first thing I cover, and once that's out of the way, we can actually get into The stuff that is
More
harder
important.
to extract from tutorials normally.
Yeah,
I found a lot of tutorials I watched were kind of more about the technical side, and you don't know what's going on in someone's head, and
exactly.
that's invaluable. So that was really what I wanted to push, was, you know, kind of get the technical stuff out of the way, and then you know, what I'm thinking as I'm creating and as I'm designing,
Yeah.
and
I
that can be
mean,
applied to whatever software you want, you know.
right. I mean, even if you go on the ZBrush website, ZBrush or ZBrush, that's interesting.
I guess it depends where you're from.
If you're Grant Warwick, then you say ZBrush. If you go on ZBrush website, there's tons of material how to use tools, like breakdown of what each tool does. The problem is when the software is so big, there's so many tools, so many things you can do. Now it's a question how to be selective about them and which of those tools are actually useful for this specific kind of work that you do, right? And having that
Yes.
thought process. This is the reason why I'm choosing those tools, because I know it works. It makes things easier, fast, and it just, it just works nice exactly for what I need,
Exactly, and I've tried to like kind of streamline that intro into ZBrush for that reason. So I won't cover everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just be covering the things that I use in the lesson.
Yeah.
So
There you
hopefully, you know, that'll give any newbie a really good foundation, and, you know, they can obviously experiment and try other brushes and
course.
techniques as they go.
And
but
you
this will give
should,
them
by
a
the
really
way.
good base.
You should.
Yeah.
But it gives you a good base, and you have at least, all right, I know what I need to focus on. I don't have to come through freaking 20, 50, hundreds of tools and just sort of decide, all right, which one I should use. No, it's all covered, and you know exactly what to do to get the results. Very cool. Next one, any recommendation on drawing practices, resources for this course?
Drawing practice.
And resources for it. Like, do you think there are any resources or practices that you should be doing
I'd say
before you
just,
take the course?
well, draw until your hand bleeds, pretty much. I mean, you can't really, you know, I can't stress that enough. I mean, I did that for years. Like, that's kind of how I just got into art before, was drawing, and I've been doing that since I was like a teenager.
But it's not a pre-requirement, I guess.
It's not no, it's not a pre-requirement. I mean, you could almost skip the drawing and go straight into concepting in ZBrush.
But you shouldn't. As a concept artist, you shouldn't.
As a concept artist, yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
I'd recommend that alongside any 3D work you do, would be to practice your design skills with drawing and stuff like that.
Cool.
I think they work in conjunction with one another. But in terms of resource, I mean, there's an infinite amount of resource for drawing online. I mean, you know, take your pick. Even Learn Squared, you've got an incredible amount of resource for painting and you know, kind of for design and whatnot. So, I mean, yeah, there's no kind of like prerequisite for the course. I think, you know, you can essentially produce like a bunch of really crude thumbnails, and mine are fairly crude, to kind of build from. That stage is more about just getting ideas down and exploring ideas, knowing that you're going to be taking it further in 3D. So I wouldn't get too hung up about the the kind of drawing aspect, if that's something that you're not that comfortable with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'll be covering kind of my thought process when approaching that as well. So hopefully that'll be useful.
Cool. Someone asked if you're gonna have more mentorship rounds in 2017. Mentorships are open, by the way. You can sign up anytime right now. But if you cannot sign up now, question is, will you be able to do it later?
Well, if people are liking the course, then I'd be happy to do more rounds. I guess it depends on how well it's received by you guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to do this as an ongoing thing.
Awesome. Very, very nice. I'm glad to hear that myself. I've never used any 3D software than 3D Code. While being familiar with 3D Code to help me learn ZBrush, or will it totally will it be totally different? You haven't used 3D code, but I can tell
No.
you from what the brief idea of what I know what 3D code is and knowing ZBrush as much as I know it, I think it's going to be useful knowledge because 3D code is basically sculpting environment too. It works a little different. I think it's voxels. But just the idea of working in 3D environment, that by itself is always helpful because your brain builds that understanding of space, of 3D space, not only X, Y, but also Z, therefore ZBrush. And it gets you a better idea how to make things happen in 3D environment, not just on the blank or on a 2D canvas. So definitely helpful. It's obviously going to be a different UI, different sets of tools and different results too. 3D code is very, very powerful software. I mean, look at JAMA's class. You can pretty much see why it's powerful because the results are great. ZBrush is an industry standard. As soon as you know ZBrush, you can expect that every studio will appreciate that because almost every studio use that. So let's go and ask. There's another one. Unless you want to add something, Alex.
No, I mean, I have no experience in 3D code, but like you say, I think just understanding, if prior to using any 3D software, using a package will probably help. And if it's a sculpting software, as you say, then that'll probably be pretty useful. If it was like Maya or Max, like a traditional 3D package, you might have certain preconceptions.
Yeah.
But if you're coming in it fairly open, I think this course is perfect.
Perfect. Someone asked if Wacom is recommended. I would say it's great. You can get a bamboo for $30 or $40. You can get a used one from eBay for cheap. And I would recommend doing that. Mouse is good for, I would say, 3ds Max and Maya, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go into sculpting without a Wacom of some description, because you really do want to get that analog input where the subtlety of a touch is recognized as opposed to just on and off.
Yeah.
You will use the mouse for navigating and doing kind of more traditional actions like the kind of transpose tool and stuff like that. But yeah, for sculpting, I'd say you should have a Wacom of some description. The bamboo would be fine.
Perfect. I think that was last question, unless someone else asks some more. We kind of covered a lot when we were talking, but there was a question: how long does it usually take to get finished product? I guess by product it means the concept or character concept. Because the keyshot renderings look really finalized. They kind of do. They kind of look awesome.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
from the concepting standpoint, wouldn't it be faster to do the touch-ups in Photoshop or something like that? Or touch-ups on the designs, I would say.
You could essentially build something in ZBrush and kind of use that as a point for your illustration and paint over that. Right. I think the point of taking it further is if something was being developed further. So during the course of a project, you might have the opportunity to really refine these designs, and say a design is approved, it might get sent to character art or a character modeler.
Right.
And you might have a fairly rough sculpt. And then rather than doing like paint overs, you can actually do your paint overs by building the model, if you know what I mean. Like you can actually fill in those areas, those blank areas. And this is kind of like a common workflow where we'll have a rough sculpt. It might take us like a day or so. And then if that's approved, we can pursue that design and refine it. And then, that might go to character art, where they'd obviously interpret our design and kind of polish it and make it really pretty and crisp and lovely. But the benefit is that rather than having to take screen grabs and kind of explain what you're trying to achieve with the volume, you can actually just move the points about, move the verts about, and design in from any angle.
Right. Right.
In terms of time taken, I don't know exactly how long this took, but I think the base sculpt for the character was probably between 6 and 8 hours, and then for the Marvelous Designer work, I'd probably say maybe another 6 to 8 hours on that. So for all the clothing, the posing is something different, and the rendering time is not accounted for. But it's a fairly quick process, and it's heavier up front, so you'll spend more time initially, which is kind of why you want to get your good initial direction with your sketches and your rough sculpts. But once you have your asset, you can save an incredible amount of time at the end. Like it'll pay off.
Yeah. What are your specs? Your PC specs? Someone is asking, if the meshes, or I guess the tools in ZBrush that you have here are heavy or not, and should their computer start doing bench presses?
No, I think ZBrush, I believe, is RAM intensive. So I have in my PC 32 gigs of RAM, which I think is fairly commonplace now.
Yeah, it's becoming, I guess 16 gigs is, I guess, the most common right now. 32 is it's starting to be on a higher end, but it's definitely useful to have more RAM for sure.
You'll be fine with 16 gigs. You'll be fine.
What about 8?
8, you're probably going to be okay, but you might not notice some kind of lagging.
Right.
I mean, ZBrush has been out for many years now, so people have been able to use that software with much lower spec machines than a commonplace now.
Yeah.
And it's actually incredible, how it handles so much information. It's really impressive.
It handles differently than your regular 3D software. So if you would take that sculpt into Maya or any other software, it might work a little different if you have not enough, juice in your computer. But ZBrush handles it pretty well. I remember, working with ZBrush when I had 16 gigs and 8 gigs. It was good. It wasn't anything amazing. Obviously, it's going to be limiting for you how much you can do, or how detailed you're going to be in the sculpt. But you still learn, and you can still break it into parts and do it in parts too. So,
yeah. There's ways around it. I mean, there's a button on the UI that's called solo mode. So every time, I mean, it's got a number of different functions. One of which is a kind of a dynamic mode. So every time you rotate the model, it hides all your tools bar the one you're working on.
That's perfect.
And that's really useful if you have a kind of lower spec machine, or if your scene's getting really heavy. That's a really good way to kind of combat that.
Yeah. Awesome, dude. I think we've covered everything, and we answered quite a lot of questions already. Let's wrap it up, guys. Let's wrap it up here. It's been some of the screenshots that I'm looking through right now, you've sent them over before, but some of them I'm just seeing for the first time on the stream. I was like, damn, Daniel. I wish I had my soundboard ready. I don't. I would just spam it right now out of excitement. Anyways, guys, this is it. There you have it. This is the course. This is what you've been asking for. We try to listen to what our students are asking for. We do the surveys and ask, we want to, what do you want to do? What do you want to have? And try to find the best people around to do that. And finding best people means finding people that not only are great at art, but also can teach, or, can possibly be great teachers. And I think you nail it, man. I looked through the course itself, and I think, damn, it's a lot of information there. I can tell that the value is there, definitely.
Well,
and we wouldn't
take it. Pardon, sorry.
Yeah, and we wouldn't release it if it wasn't there. So there you have it, guys. Concepting in ZBrush, ready to go. Sign up anytime you want. Professional spots going to be limited, so hurry up. And I think someone asked when the classes are actually going to start. The information's hidden right here in the small text. It tells you the first mentorship session is going to be held on January 28th. Up until then, you have an opportunity to buy it. So, and if you miss it, if it sells out, then I'm pretty sure if it's going to be a successful class and people are going to be interested, we'll open up more seats later that year. So, guys, thanks for everyone who joined the stream, and especially thank you, Alex, for being here and with us and answering a lot of those questions and walking us through what this really is. We do those streams to help you make a decision. Like, we don't want you to pay any money before you know exactly what that is, and that's why we want you to ask questions. This stream is going to be on YouTube shortly after. So if you happen to join right now, like, oh damn, like I missed everything, don't worry, it's gonna be there. You're gonna be able to watch everything that we've talked about here. Rewatch it again. Maybe you had to go for a pee or a coffee or whatever that is, and you missed something really important. You can rewatch and have that too. So, dude, I'm excited. I'm excited.
It's been awesome. Thank you for having me, man. Like, it's a real honor.
No, it's honor on our end. It's just we try to get the best people, and when we can get them to be a part of the Learn Squared family. It's dream come true. So awesome, guys. Thanks a lot. We'll wrap it out right here. You can follow that link, learnsquared.com/courses/concepting-ZBrush. Momo is doing the MVP right now and just posting links left and right. So follow that too. And dude, thanks a lot. And for anyone else, there you have it.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, man.
Take care, guys. Peace out.